Ever wanted to really express yourself online and a tweet, Instagram, or Facebook post just wasn't enough? Well, that's how the Run Wave came to fruition. So, let's talk my vision for the Run Wave and get to know me, your host, Kim. Hey Wave Nation, and welcome to the very first episode of the Run Wave podcast. I am your host, Straight Kim, or you can just call me Kim. This episode is going to be your introduction to me and my vision for the Run Wave podcast. I was born and raised in the Bronx, New York, and I have lived in the New York City area for all of my 38 years. Well, except for that 1 year of first grade when I lived in South Carolina with my father. I am a wife, a mother, a lover of travel, and of course, a runner. I'm not a certified run coach of anything. I'm not the fastest runner out there by far, but what I am is very experienced in this recreational sport that we all love called running. My running journey began in the summer of 2012. I actually attended a family reunion that summer and I met a female cousin for the very first time. And she told me all about this all-female, all-black running group that she was a part of. As soon as I got back to New York, I was on my computer finding out more information about this group. Luckily for me, there was a chapter in my town and I met up with the group the same week that I returned. And thus, my running journey began. By September 16, 2012, I was ready for my first 5K, which was the $20 Tanger Outlet 5K. And yes, this race started and finished at an outlet mall. But you know what? It was an amazing experience, especially for a first-time runner doing their first race. The race was extremely small, probably just a few hundred people, and it had a freaking amazing after party. I mean, there was free food, there was dancing, prizes, and we just really had a ball. And I even received a medal for my very first race, which was awesome. All of these elements together is really enough to get anyone hooked on running road races. I completed my first half marathon, the Brooklyn Half, on May 18, 2013. And gosh, I can't even believe that it has been almost 7 years since I ran my very first 13.1. My first out-of-town race was the Trenton Double Cross 10K on November 9, 2013. Now, in 2020, I actually laugh at the fact that I paid for a hotel in New Jersey to run a 10K because now I always say that I would never leave the state for less than a half marathon. I have really turned into a race snob. By 2014, I was itching to do something new. A group of girls in my local running group were actually training for a triathlon. Now, never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I would become a triathlete. In April of 2014, I did my first mini tri. And mini tri for this race meant it was a 400-meter indoor pool swim, a 6-mile bike, and a 2-mile run. The term mini really represented this race because that is exactly what it was for this distance, but it really got my feet wet in the sport and opened my eyes to something new, and I was hooked from then on. In June of 2015, I completed my first 70.3 race, which was the Ironman Eagleman 70.3. And I have to say that was the absolute hardest race that I've ever done. It's in, I believe, Cambridge, Maryland, and it was like 90 degrees that day. On the run of that race, it was like the zombie apocalypse. Everybody was walking the run. I had never seen anything like it. And I just remember that I was sunburned for oh my God, for the whole week I felt this sunburn. I was like 5 shades darker than usual and I was just hurting. My hands were swollen. It was just a really tough experience, but it was a really great experience for my first 70.3 and I will never forget it. That same year, I ran my first New York City marathon in November. And in September of 2016, I completed my second half iron, the Atlantic City Ironman 70.3. And wow, I just cannot believe it's been 3.5 years since I've done a triathlon. And I actually do really want to get back into the sport. I just have to find the time to train, to do so. It is really like another full-time job training for a tri. So according to Athlinks, I have completed 131 races since 2012, which is mind-boggling to me. And it's actually probably a little bit more because some of the international races that I have done don't appear on my Athlinks profile. My current race goals are to run a half marathon in all 50 states. Yes, it is a lofty goal. I think I've been at it for maybe 4 years or so, but I just really started taking it seriously in 2018. I have completed 18 states so far, with my next state being Seattle, which is coming up in June. Also, I am on a mission to complete the Abbott 6 World Major Marathons. So far, I have New York City, Chicago, Berlin, and I have London coming up this April, at the end of April, and just crossing my fingers that this will happen and the coronavirus doesn't cancel our plans to run London, because we have a really great group of people that are going. There's about 25 to 30 of us, all African American, all runners from the U.S. with different familial backgrounds, and we're really going to take ourselves to London and have a good time and check another world major off of our list. Once I'm done with London, I would have completed 4 out of the 6 world majors, and I will have Tokyo and Boston remaining, which I hope to do over the next 2 years, one year, one the next year. I haven't decided the order yet, so we'll see how that goes. Phew! That was my running resume in a nutshell. I always say that people have such short attention spans today, myself included, and just don't like to read. Case in point, you put up a post on IG, 3 seconds later, someone liked that post. There is absolutely no way that that person actually read your caption. So I usually like to keep my captions pretty short, but sometimes I do go long with them. And I mean really long. Those are usually the posts of mine that people actually read and comment on. So I get the most engagement in those really long and detailed posts. I put up a post a couple of weeks ago about a minor ache that I've been having for a while. Now, when I write these long ass captions, I always add something at the end along the lines of, did you make it to the end of this post? Or, whew, that was a lot. You're the real MVP for reading all of it. And those type of lines normally get a reaction out of people because they really did just sit there and read my long post and actually comment on it because it was probably something that they somehow related to. So this post in particular, which I talked about my shin pains that I've been having for the last few months, well, more than a few months, but it had 33 comments, including all of my own, and a ton of likes. And many of the comments were from other runners who were struggling with the same thing or another type of injury. And this is what prompted me to want to take the conversation further, because you really can't fully explain yourself in an Instagram post or in a tweet. There's just not enough real estate for you to do that online. Some subjects just require more conversation. So I started the Runwave podcast to have that conversation with other runners. The show will primarily be one-on-one in-person interviews for now. So all of my guests to start will be from the New York City area. And we are just going to talk about subjects that affect runners. Each show will be tailored to something that is going on in that particular runner's life at the moment or something that had happened in the past. I want to talk about topics that we only discuss amongst our closest friends in our private group texts, or topics that I see a lot of runners posting about on social media, and hot topics about happenings within the run community. My goal is to produce weekly shows with one-on-one interviews and maybe throw in a hot topic midweek show where I just chat about what's going on in real time in the run community. So if you're a New York City area runner and you have a story to tell, or an interesting topic that you would like to talk about, running related, of course, hit me up via DM on Instagram at The Run Wave. Now, the Run Wave is only me. I don't have a staff sitting in the back somewhere. So if you DM the Run Wave, you will receive a response from me personally. Or you can send me an email to kim@therunwave.com and we can discuss you possibly appearing on the show. So, I would really like to thank you for tuning into my first show. This is just a little quickie about me so you can get to know me and have an idea of the direction that the Run Wave is going in. I've already completed my first interview and it went very well, which I am so happy and excited about. So look out for details on that coming soon. Don't forget to subscribe to the Run Wave so you do not miss an episode of the podcast. And we are available on all of your favorite podcast listening platforms. The Run Wave website is also up and running, or it should be up and running very soon. So I want you to go check that out. It is therunwave.com. I am on Twitter at The Runwave and Facebook as well, facebook.com/therunwave. So again, thank you for tuning in and I will catch you on the next one. Later.